Okay, I am recording again. So welcome everybody. Last month when we had this class, we talked about how to do descendancy research. And it was specifically with the intent of finding names of ancestors who needed to have their temple work done. And we ran into a few situations when we were doing that, where we were pretty sure that the people that we found were duplicates of other people who may have already had their work done. And there's enough work out there, temple work, that needs to be done that we don't want to be duplicating our efforts. And so what we're going to be talking about today is how to find potential duplicates and how to merge them into single records. And so I'm going to start out as if I were still looking for some names of some ancestors to take to the temple. Those of you who were on last time or already know how to do descendancy search know that I would go out 7 generations and I would start looking at all of my ancestors out here and go to their descendancy view. And then we would start looking for the little green temples. And so I'm going to do that, and I did it ahead of time and already made it up to my good friend up here, Jonathan Nessiter Cook. And so that's where I'm going to start today, and we're going to go look at his tree. And I'm going to open that up in a new tab. And then I'm going to switch from fan chart, like I said, to descendancy view. And I want to switch from the default of 1 generation to 4 generations. So now I am looking at my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, Jonathan Cook, and all of his descendants and their spouses. And over here on the right-hand side, I'm looking for these little green temples because I want to find some names of people that I can take to the temple. I want to do maybe some baptisms, maybe an endowment. If I go down to this first one, William Cook, and I just click on this, I can see right away he needs to have his sealing to spouse done, which is great, but I'm not looking to do sealings right now, so I'm going to skip that one. I'll go to the next one, and here's another one that needs to have a sealing done, so I'm going to keep going. Here's George. Oh, here's a good one, George John Cook. He needs to have baptism, confirmation, initiatory endowment, and sealing to parents done. But you'll notice right underneath it says possible duplicates, learn more. We didn't exactly talk about this last month. We just said that there could be duplicates, and I promised I would show you how this month to deal with it. So here we are. We've only moved down to our 5th name that we've looked at today, and already we've run into one. Just the same as last month, you never, even if this request button wasn't grayed out right here, you never would want to click that. You would always want to go to the name record first to learn a little bit more about him and to make sure that he really does need to have the work done. When you have duplicates or possible duplicates, you do the same thing. So we're going to go click on George John Cook's name. And I held down the control button when I clicked on it. If you're on an Apple or a Mac, you hold the command button down when you click on it. And that will open it up in this new tab. And here we can see George John Cook. And it shows right up here in the research help that this is a possible duplicate. And if it didn't say this, we would be going and looking through here to see a little bit of information about him. We would be looking to make sure that he had 1 or more sources. So everything here looks good, except for the fact that there is a possible duplicate.
Do you want to eat the rest of this salad? I'm full.
So sorry about that announcement. So right now, what we're going to do is click on this possible duplicate for George John. And by doing that, we can see that we can review the merge, or we can say that it's not a match. And I always go to review merge because I don't really know if it's not a match, just from the little bit that I've looked at. So we're going to go ahead and click here on review merge. And what this does now is it brings up a side-by-side view of the possible duplicate who's on the left. And then the person, they call it the surviving person. They really should be saying the surviving record, but either way, we're comparing what's on the left with what's on the right. And this gives us some ideas as to whether or not these two people are the same or not. Immediately, we can see the name was George John, and this one over here on the right is George John Cook. So those agree. We know that he was born in 1865 in Dorset, England. And over here, we know he was christened in 1865 in Dorset, England. So those two pieces of information agree. On the left, it says an alternate name for him is George John Cook, which is the full name of the one on the right. So those agree. It shows that the parents are William Cook and Sarah Elizabeth, although the one on the right is Sarah Elizabeth Brown. So that information matches. And then if we keep scrolling down, that's all the information. So everything we have so far seems to indicate that this is a duplicate record. All the information seems to match. Now, some people ask me, how do I know for sure that this is the same person and that it matches? I don't know that you ever know 100% for sure. You might get to 99.9%. In this case, I would say I'm up in the over 90% confidence that this is the same person. But I also tell people that they should go ahead and rely on the spirit to help them to decide whether or not these two people are the same. If you think they are, I would say go ahead and do it. I'm going to show you a little bit later that there is repentance if you accidentally merge people and then find out later that you shouldn't have. I will show you how to do an unmerge.
Okay.
And so if you even think that they are the same, and that's the impression you feel, then I would say go ahead at the bottom and say click yes, continue to do the merge.
Okay,
If
before you
that
do
gut
that,
feeling tells you, I just don't think this is the right person, or I'm not sure. If you know for sure it's not a match, you can click here. If you're
Steve,
just
we
not
have-
sure one way or the other, you can click here on the back button. And then you can let somebody else come in and decide whether this is a duplicate or not.
Hey, Steve, do you hear us?
Barely, yes.
He had,
Oh, you know what? That's my fault. Let me turn my volume up.
Okay. I have a question.
Okay, now I'm at 100%. I can hear you now.
Okay, now scroll back up just a little bit where you show the parents' names.
Parents, right here.
So William Cook, those are two different ID numbers for the parents.
Correct. Yep.
So wouldn't you want to check him before you made this merge?
So there's two ways to do it. That's a great question. One is to check ahead of time. The other one is to check after the fact.
Okay.
I like doing it after the fact, and I'll show you why. But the quick answer is if you merge them now, what'll happen is he will have two sets of parents. And then in one record, you'll be able to see everybody, and you won't have to write down numbers and figure it out and say, yeah, this guy's the same as that guy, and I need to go in and merge them, because all the information will be on his record. He'll just have two sets of parents. So that's the way I prefer doing it. But yes, checking ahead of time would work. So whoever it was that saw that these two are different, they get bonus points today. Because I also noticed that right away, but I wasn't going to point it out till afterwards. So yeah, kudos to you for catching that. That is something that you could look for, especially when you see Sarah Elizabeth and Sarah Elizabeth Brown. there's no way these two people could be the same, because if they were, the names would be the same. And so they had to be different records. Now, these two William Cooks, one ends in WT2, one ends in TSS, so you know they're different as well. Are there any other questions?
What do those last three letters mean? What do you mean in?
Oh, so these are the IDs. So
Yeah.
William Cook's ID is M8GB WT2. And this William Cook's ID is M47MTSS. This is the unique individual identifier.
Yeah, I understand that, but you said in TSS. I thought you meant.
Oh, I was just referring, I always do a shortcut. I just use the last three letters of the identifier.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because I don't like saying the whole thing, but that could be a little confusing, so I'm glad you pointed it out. Yeah, so I call this one WT2, this is WYW, and usually those last three are enough to uniquely identify whoever's on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to go now and I'm going to say yes, I'm going to continue because these look good, even though, as he pointed out, we're going to end up with two sets of parents, but that just means we'll have more to merge. Now what we're doing, we're no longer in the do I want to do this phase, but now we're in the I'm actually going to do the merging phase. And so on the left-hand side, it shows the record that will be deleted, if you will. And the one on the right is the one that will be survived. But you can move information from the left to the right by clicking this little blue replace button. So if I were to click this one at the top, it would replace George John Cook's name over here with just George John, which obviously we don't want to do that, but I'm going to click on it just to show you what would happen. So now it would move that over here, and all of a sudden I'm going to realize, whoa, that's less information. I don't want that, so you can undo it. And we'll just leave George John Cook. Male is the same on both sides. There is no birth on the left side, and it automatically moved the christening over because there was no corresponding christening in the right side record. Death, we don't have on either one. We have the alternate name, which was on the left, but not on the right. In this case, the alternate name is the same as the real name. So you could choose to undo this if you want. I'm going to leave it. It doesn't hurt anything. Going down through the parents and siblings, these are all the original ones that are in white. And then here's the duplicate mom and dad, which it moved over, and that's okay, because now we're going to have two sets of parents. And then we have the source. The first source came from the census, which was in the right-hand record. The second source came from a birth record, which was on the left, and it automatically got merged over here onto the right. So I'm going to say, yes, this all looks great. I am going to click continue, and now it'll merge those two records. Well, it doesn't yet. It gives you one final chance to look at what is going to be changed in green over here. And it also allows you to put in a reason why you're doing the merge. I love the fact that they've added 4 default reasons for you, because I really got tired of typing this every time. In this case, all vital information and relationships match the ID numbers, and then it gives you those 2 ID numbers that I was talking about. And so I can just click add right here, and it will put that up here into the information box for me so I don't have to type it in. If only most of the vital information matched, you could click this one. If you say most vital information and relationships match, but there were no details conflict, you can do this one. Or the very last thing is this record contains little information, but there's enough evidence to believe it's the same. You can click here. And if none of those, then you can just type your own reason right there and say why you think these 2 records match. But in this case, everything that we saw matched. And so I went ahead with this top left box, and I'm going to click finish merge. Once you have done the merge, now we have the remaining George John Cook. And I promised you I would show you how to repend in case you accidentally merged somebody that you didn't want to. If you scroll down over here on the right, you can see a thing that says latest changes. I like going in and just clicking where it says show all, because if you click that, you can go to the bottom of this screen, all the way to the very bottom, and it'll show you clear back to when this record was added. I can see that it was added November 17th of 2023 by Carolyn Kosifu. And this is, she added his name, his sex, his birth, his death, his relationship to his parents. And anyway, scrolling all the way on back, you can see all of the information that was added to his record, going clear back to this merge that I just did. And let's suppose I discovered that, oh no, these really are two different people and I should not have done the merge. And that has happened to me in the past. You go through later and you find more records and you think, oh my goodness, it looked like it was the same guy, but now I know that it's not. You would just come click right here where it says unmerge, and it will undo everything that you did. Now, here's the caveat. If someone goes in and modifies this record after you did the merge, then it may not allow you to do an unmerge, just because people have gone in and changed some of the merged information. But even if that's the case, you can always go back into these records and you can see what it was that was merged. And through a laborious manual process, you still can undo everything that you did. It'll just take a little bit longer and be a little bit harder. I had to do that once. Not a lot of fun, but it can be done. And so, again, some people get really nervous when they have to do, when they're doing merges. And I just tell them, it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. You can undo it. And the sooner you catch your mistake, the easier it is to undo. Okay, I'm going to go back now to his record. And we're going to just scroll down and kind of look what this merged person looks like. We can see we've got George here. Here's William Cook and Sarah Elizabeth Brown, his mom and dad, and here's the other William Cook and Sarah Elizabeth, a second set of mom and dad. Obviously, these need to be merged. And it's like I said a few minutes ago, I like fixing it afterwards because all the information is right here together and it makes it real easy to bring up these individuals and do the merges. For the sake of repetitiveness, I'm going to quickly merge William Cook, the top William Cook with the bottom William Cook, and then the top Sarah Elizabeth with the bottom Sarah Elizabeth. So you can see again how it is that we do that. If you have any questions as I'm going through this, yell and holler or raise your hand or something. And the only one that can raise a hand is the person on the computer. So just yell and holler. And I will, I'll stop and address the questions that you have. So the top William Cook has 9 children. The bottom William Cook only has the one child, George John Cook, and that's because it came from a birth record. So I want to keep the top one. So I'm going to click on his name. I'm going to control click on it so that it'll open it up in a new tab. And there is William Cook. And lo and behold, it already knows that this is a possible duplicate, which makes it real easy for me. And we can see it's WT2. If I go back and look at this record, the duplicate down here, sure enough, is WT2. So the computer did the hard work for me by figuring out that these two were the same people. But if it had not known that it was a duplicate, here's how you would have done it. I'm going to copy this ID, and the easy way to do that is you just click on the ID and it automatically copies it into your clipboard. And then you would come over to this William Cook, and let's assume that it didn't know about this duplicate up here. You would scroll down and you would see down here possible duplicates. It would say 0. And so you'd say, well, I know that there is one, so I'm going to come down here and do a merge myself by ID. So if you click that, it's going to say, what is the ID? And now I can just do a paste because I copied it. And it's this guy right here. We say continue. And now we're back in the same side-by-side view that we had before. We have the first William Cook on the left, the second one on the right, and we can see the information. We've got the same wife, same named wife, different record. Got the same son, and nothing else shows up as a difference. So we're going to say yes, we're going to continue on this one. We don't need to replace the name, we don't need to replace the sex nor the death. It's automatically moved over this other wife and son. So now you're going to have a father with 2 wives named Sarah Elizabeth, which is okay because we're going to merge her. And we say continue. And now in this case, I'm going to say most vital information and relationships match. Some details contain minor conflicts, not really much. So we're going to add that. Do you guys have a question?
Any question? Nope.
Okay, good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this merge.
Wait, I have a question.
Okay, we have a question.
When you were talking about you can delete it or go back
Right.
stuff, do you have to be the person that merged it in order to undo it? Or can
Yes.
you do someone else's?
You have to be the one.
Okay,
Yeah, and I've seen merges where I knew they were wrong. And the only thing you can do there is contact that person and say, I see you did a merge. Here's the reasons I don't think it's correct. Would you mind unmerging it?
okay,
Yeah, if you cannot reach them and cannot get them to do an unmerge, you can go back in and manually re-enter all the information that they merged.
mhm,
The only problem with that is if you were merging a person whose tempo work had already been done, it's no longer going to show up as being done because you're entering a new individual.
okay.
So it's best if they can undo it, but
Well, for instance, like if they died, they can't redo it. And so I have some situations when the person died that changed something. So, but I can manually do it, but
yes,
make sure that they know how do you make sure that they don't duplicate the ordinances?
you can't, they will redo them.
Okay,
Yep, that's just one of the limitations of the system. Most of the time, at least my experience, has been when people have been merging records, a lot of time it's a new record that somebody just created and none of the work has been done on that new record anyway.
mhm,
And so if you end up restoring it, usually the work needed to be done again anyway. But you're right, that's not always the case.
okay, all right, thanks.
Okay, great question. Okay, so now here we're looking at William Cook, the one that we just merged. And sure enough, we've got William Cook and Sarah Elizabeth with the one child, but now we have the same William Cook with Sarah Elizabeth Brown. So we've at least got the same dad for this child who was our original George John Cook, but now we've got a duplicate mom. And so we're going to go ahead now and do the same thing that we just did for the dad. But this time I'll do it the easy way, which is the computer already knows that this is a duplicate. So I don't need to copy the ID. I don't need to come down here and merge by ID. I can just say, yep, let's go look at this possible duplicate. Let's review the merge. And we're gonna compare side by side these people. Got Sarah Elizabeth. Scroll down, it's got the same husband, it's got the same child. And the source, which came from the birth record. We're gonna say yes, continue. There's not gonna be anything to move over because everything is the same. We will have the one source record, the birth record that is gonna be copied over. I'm gonna say continue, and in this case, all the vital information matched. Technically, she didn't have the last name, so I'll say most vital information. And we'll finish the merge. Voila, we just had to do 3 merges. But now we have William Cook. I should go back and look at his record. Now William Cook only has 1 spouse, and George John Cook only has 1 set of parents, and everything looks great here. And here's the ordinances. Now, I don't know if you'll remember when we first looked at him, it showed that he needed to have his baptism and everything completed all the way up to sealing to parents. Now all he needs to have done is a sealing to spouse. So you avoided doing duplicate work for the baptism, confirmation, initiatory endowment, and sealing to parents. So, and then it took us 7.5 minutes for me to show that all, and that was talking through it. If I would have done it quickly, it would have just taken a few minutes, and you avoided hours of work in the temple that can now be spent doing work for other people who really need to have it done. Great. Any questions on that and how we did it? Cool. So I am going to go back now, and this is George's record. One of the things that I talked about last time was whenever I bring up a record that I'm trying to do temple work for, I will always click on all the other people on there just to see what work they need to have done. We can see William and Sarah need to be sealed each other. He needs more work. I mean, more information, more information, more information, more information, more information. Oh, their work's all done. And Louisa can be sealed to her spouse if you want. So you could see what kind of work needed to be done there, but no more duplicates. So we accomplished what we wanted to do here. Okay, now going back to the descendancy research, we successfully took care of George John Cook. If I click now on here, you'll see the request is gone. So I could refresh this screen, and then it would get rid of that, that temple over here. But we're just gonna, for the sake of expediency, keep going down, because I want to find some more work that needs to be done. Here's Louisa. She needs to be sealed to spouse, but we're looking for baptisms and endowments. So we'll look at Cain's. His has already been shared with the temple, so that's good. This one's been shared with the temple, is good. William Beale, same thing, has been shared with the temple. And Charles Beale, same thing. James Beale, good. Good to see that people are getting all this work done. This one's done. These 2 have been shared with the temple. Agnes is good. Richard Cook Bayless. It says that he needs to be sealed to Sophia, but there's a possible duplicate. And if I come look down here at Sophia, it doesn't show that she's a duplicate. So I'm guessing the duplicate might be Richard Cook Bayless. But Sophia is the one that we can see right up here. So we're going to go ahead and click on her record. And we're going to bring this up and just take a look. There's Sophia Coleman Cook. We go look at her ordinances. It says here that she can be sealed to her parents or sealed to her spouse. So there's no problem that I can see with her. So let's go look at her spouse and see if maybe that's where the duplicate is. So we're gonna go ahead and open his record. We can see right away, he needs to have all of his work done. And yep, sure enough, he is the possible duplicate. Which kind of makes sense. It's kind of like I was saying earlier, when you do merges that need to be undone, most of the time it's because you merged somebody who didn't have any of their information, which is the case, I mean, any of their work done, which is the case here. But I think this one really does need to be merged. So let's go ahead and look at this possible duplicate and see what we think. We're going to review this merge. And we are going to say, let's see, the name Richard Cook Bayless is the same, birth is the same, death is the same, burial, there's no difference because we don't know the burial over here. Alternate name we've got over here. We have a bunch of other information on the left-hand side. Over here we have a spouse, Harriet Hansford. And it's 77X. You'll notice the spouse on this side is also 77X. So it appears that Harriet has two husbands that are both named the same, which is another reason that you would want to merge these. If we compare a son, we've got Richard Cook Bayless, the same person, 8GV on both sides. And then everything else down here, we've got the parents on the one side, nothing on the other side. So I'm saying yes, these people look like they're the same. But as I look at the information, what I have on the left is a lot more information than what I have on the right. And you'll also notice this one on the left was added back in 2019. The one on the right was just added fairly recently in 2024, and they just didn't have quite as much information. So I want the one on the left to be the surviving person. That's what this little switch button does right here. So I'm going to click switch. It will switch these two people, and it warns you that now the possible duplicate is going to be the one that was on the right and the surviving is the one that was on the left. So we say, yes, we do want to switch positions. Now we will bring this up again. Information is the same. It's just you have the majority of the information on the right-hand side now. So there will be less that you have to move across when you do the merge. So I'm going to say, yes, we want to continue. And now we're going to go down line by line and just see where the differences are. Name is the same, birth is the same, death is the same. And now the burial, which used to be on the left, is now on the right, and we don't have to move that over because it's already going to be in the surviving record. All this other information, immigration, residences are there. The custom event that was unique on the left-hand side has already been moved over to the right. The family, spouse, and children, the computer realizes that these are the same individuals. However, the marriage on the right-hand side, it knew was in July. On the left-hand side, it only knew that it was 1881. So you have a little more information. Plus on the right-hand side, we know the city, it was in Weymouth. Whereas on the left-hand side, we didn't. So this is really good, what's left on the right-hand side. We have all the children, which is great. We have the spouse, which we didn't have before. And we have these three new records that have been attached. So we say, yes, we want to continue. And all the vital information matched. There was no discrepancies. So we go ahead and add that as my reason and finish the merge. So now if we look at our wonderful Richard Cook Bayless, and we see that he does have two wives, but they're two different wives, which is okay. The first one he married in 1877. The second one he married in 1881. He didn't have any children by the first one, but he had 14 children by the second one. So this all looks reasonable. We have 14 sources to collaborate it. And if we go over here and look at the ordinances that need to be done, Now we can go in and request his baptism, confirmation, and so on. I'm gonna go ahead and do that while we've got it up here. I will request all of these. I will accept. Just to show you how he is related to me, we can click here. He is the husband of my second cousin, 3 times removed. But Sophia is really who I'm gonna get the work done, but in order to get him sealed to her, he needs to have all of his work done too. So there you go. Last month, when I was talking about doing descendancy research, I said, this is how I find a lot of new names to add to the tree. And it's also how I find a lot of work that needs to be done. And that's exactly what we did right here. We just found some work for Richard that needed to be done. Okay, any questions on any of this? I'm going through fast, but I think we're covering a lot of important topics.
Okay, when a person passes away. And you go in like when my father did, you automatically have to merge, right? Does it automatically do it or do you have to wait?
You have to do it. Okay, so I will address that right now. So me and all of my siblings each have a unique record for my father.
Right.
And they have unique IDs. The church also has a record for my father that keeps track of all of his ordinances and, marriage and missions and all that kind of information. Right. When he dies, the ward clerk will go in and mark him as deceased. And that church record will then become publicly available. Ideally, each of you, well, me and all of my siblings will go in and also mark him as deceased. So there's 5 of me, plus there's the ward clerk. So there could be 6 records out there, but he might also have nieces and nephews and his brother and sister. So yeah, you could have dozens of records for that one person. They all need to be merged manually.
Okay.
I know. So the way you get around that, and I keep wondering when they're going to address this at Family Search, is they've created family groups, which is awesome, but it didn't go quite as far as I wanted it to. I wanted us to be able to put the same living person in a family group so that it would be the same ID for all of us. But they have not done that yet.
They haven't done that yet? Okay.
No. You can share deceased people,
But not living.
but not living.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's trying to get around those stupid HIPAA laws.
Yeah.
And they just haven't, because technically they can do it. The technology to do it is there, but anyway, so unfortunately, yes, you do need to. So what I teach people is when they go in and mark somebody as deceased, they should immediately go do a search for that person in the family tree to see if they're already there.
Okay.
The computer will do the same thing, but not right away. It could take minutes or hours or even days to look for.
It's gonna go ahead even though the clerk hasn't put it in.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've seen clerks that it has taken weeks or months.
Okay.
And in that case, it'll just eventually get a duplicate record. But, hopefully you being a descendant of that person, you will know if their work has been done or not.
Right.
And if it is, you won't try to do it.
Okay.
You'll at least wait till the clerk has marked them as deceased and you'll see that the work has been done.
Okay.
Okay, awesome question. Thank you. Keep the good questions coming. Okay, Sophia, we've already looked at her. We know what's left to be done. Her details, everything looks good here. And so I am going to go back now. My very last person we've got.
Okay, we've got one question here.
Yes,
But
I love questions.
You have all those unique identifier numbers. Is there a way to tell that the word clerks has a certain ID?
Only if you ask him.
When they come up with the KW number. Then you merge everything into that, and it preserves the ordinances.
What do you mean by KW?
People have done their own baptism or confirmation, they usually have a KW number. If you
Once
start,
they become
otherwise
deceased,
you
their
have a
number
bunch of
changes.
temporary IDs. And so which temporary ID would you want to put in as the record and merge into?
Are you, when you say KW number, you referring to this ID up here?
Yes,
I can answer.
Okay, it doesn't really matter which one survives. Because all the information is gonna be merged together anyway.
Yeah, but I can think of a reason why it does matter.
Okay,
For instance, I inherited all of my mother's genealogical files, and she has ID numbers for all of those people. So sometimes when I go in and look for that ID number, it's not there. And I find the same person with a new ID number that needs work done that we already did as a family years and years ago. So if the same ID number was kept throughout, and it doesn't show up as a duplicate anywhere, if the same ID number was kept, then that temple work would never show up again as needing to be done. And I would be able to find from my old records, and these are not living people either. These are dead people.
right. I'm trying to understand though,
Steve,
what happened to the old record where the work was done?
well, didn't we get all new ID numbers when Family Search started, when new Family Search started?
Yes,
So that, if you have a really old ID number, you wouldn't be able to find it.
Well, I've called into the Family Search before and given them the old ID number, and they do find it.
They find it through genealogies. They go back to the old genealogies where the old numbers are.
And they find that the temple work has been
Yeah.
done. And so we don't have to redo it, but that process doesn't work. I mean, we shouldn't be creating new records that need temple work done when they were already done before and they don't show up as a merge. I don't know how to fix it. I mean, you know.
right. I'm not sure how that could even happen. If,
It happens a lot. I've had to call the church many times.
yeah, I mean, so in the example that I gave before, let's say with my father, let's suppose 12 different people put his record out there. And that 10 of them say his work hasn't been done. If they have him connected to the correct spouse and parents, he will show up as a duplicate. If they just have him out there as some kind of an orphan person, then you're right, it would appear that he would need to have his work done. But I can't conceive of a way that you could have him linked correctly into the tree and it not show up as duplicate. Because even if it didn't say duplicate, if you had him linked to the correct parents, it would show the same child twice. So it would show two Dwayne Lowrys, one with the work being done, one with the work not being done. And any reasonable person would be able to see that it, you know, that is a duplicate person, even if the computer didn't, although I think the computer would. So I understand what you're saying. But it seems like when that happens, it's due to people like not doing the system right, trying to work it incorrectly. And I'm just not sure how we can get around, you know, people doing things wrong. And that's why I say again, because even if you were to take, let's suppose you took the new ID and an old ID and you kept the old ID. I mean, you kept the new ID. You can still go back down here where it says show all, and you can bring that up and you can find the old ID there. But, and you know, if you really wanted to restore, you could, because here's all the IDs. So they're not lost. They just kind of got merged, but all the information got merged too, which is why I say if the work was done, there's no way in a merged record it can be undone. So,
Well, I like Keith's thought that the actual official church record has a what, what?
Usually if they did their own ordinances, they start with the KW. Then, if you merge into the KW, all the temporary ones, then it preserves their ordinance work that they've had done already.
Well, that's really good to know.
yeah, I didn't know that either. I'm gonna go look at my dad's record. Cause he is, and look at that, KW, you're right.
Yeah, they're all. Shazam.
So,
Thanks, Keith.
so who was it that told us about KWs?
Keith
Keith.
Mattinson.
Keith, you get 100 celestial bonus points.
He gets them anyway because he's the long-term residence of this library and he lives here.
Okay, so I am gonna write, I never knew this, that's what the KWs were. So I have learned something today. Everybody who watches this recording, hopefully will learn this as well. But see, I can go in here and look at my dad. I can go look at all of the things that have been done.
Well, he's not a duplicate
And
because this is the old number from like.
let's see where all the merges. I attached lots of photos of my dad.
You're saying if he was a duplicate.
Where do you get to that?
Trying to see if I can go back to where the merges are. Well, I guess it doesn't matter, but I'm gonna have to go back and look through this because this is interesting information.
You go to Jenny. Okay. And then-
Cool. So all these relationship deleted are from when the merges occurred. And there's my mom's record. It's also a KW. Cool. Well, thank you for teaching us that. Okay, we've only got 8 minutes left. I did have one more name. Let's quickly go through. Maybe we'll find something interesting on Jonathan. We're going to keep going down. We just finished doing this. So Sophia, you are done. MS Galpin is good.
It's the old.
That's good.
IGI
Okay, here's Cromwell Galpin.
story about him and story.
So this one's gonna be just the same as all the other ones.
Resource.
So I think I'm not gonna bother going through that one.
Valuable for
And then the last one down here is Albert
Use
Davis.
it all the time.
And he also needs to have all of his work done. So we'll go ahead and look at Albert. And sure enough, it knows he's a duplicate. Soon as I see this right here, no sources attached, I go in and look and say, somebody added this back in 2022, but why in the world did they add it? And it's most likely because it was a duplicate. They just went in without checking and added this information. These are the kind that I really like to merge. And so I'm going to review this one. And we're going to say we've got Albert Davis with Albert Davis. We know about when he was born. The death dates match. To me, that's a key. He died in 1864. We've got a bunch of information that was added, though, on this left one. We know who his parents were. We know who all of his siblings were. And so this is great information. So yes, I'm going to continue on this one. We do have a ton of information that's being moved over. So I think I'm going to do a switch and keep the one that has the most information. So now Looking at this on the left, the names are the same, sexes are the same. It moved the birth over, and it moved the burial place over, and it moved over the spouse. But everything else was remaining, including the sources. So we'll go ahead and continue. We'll say most of the vital information matched. We'll finish this merge. My guess is he may have a ton of work now that needs to be done. And we look at the ordinances and see, my guess would be wrong. Because we can see now he's already had his baptism and confirmation and everything else done. And we just saved somebody a whole lot of duplicate work that it appeared he needed to have done. We can look at the details and see about his other family, Jane. We just need to have them sealed, but that's all. We look at his parents, their work's done. We look at his siblings, and he's got a lot of them. And my guess is that their work is all done as well. So yeah, we just saved tons of effort by merging this record. So we've learned again. I know. Is there a question?
He's asking you a question. No, is he asking Glenn?
Oh, no questions? Okay.
No, he was asking me a question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay.
But we've reviewed descendancy research and how to find names to take to the temple, how to realize that they could be duplicates. And a lot of times the computer will show you that by saying possible duplicate underneath. And when that happens, it grays out the option to request it, forces you to go look at the person, which I think is a good practice anyway. We've learned how to undo merges by looking at the latest changes here. You can see I did a merge completed. You just go in and do the show all, and there's the option to do the unmerge right there. We've learned that sometimes, in fact, very often when you do a merge, you will find other duplicates. And usually it's going to be parents or siblings that will be duplicated because somebody added those records in a group, either as like a census record or a birth record or a marriage record. And so you'll oftentimes have groups of people that need to be merged. My preferred way of doing that is to merge them all at the beginning rather than trying to figure out, for example, who the duplicate parents are. I like to do it afterwards because then all the information is together in one record, and the computer will tell you right away that it found those duplicates, and it makes it a lot easier and faster to do. Okay, that is temple and family history class on merging duplicates. Next time, we're going to talk about attaching sources, which looks similar because you're going to have a side-by-side view of records, but it accomplishes a different purpose and helps us identify how to know that the information for a given person is correct. Great. Any last minute questions before we sign off?
Oh, thank you.
No, thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And I love the fact that I learned about KW records. I am going to put that in my journal today and never forget it.
Well, one question though,
One question.
if they happen
Yes.
to merge away your KW number, it really doesn't technically matter, but it just makes it easier to make sure the ordinances are.
Done.
Right. Right. But I like, so now that I know that, in my next class, I'm going to tell people if they're merging records and they see one is a KW and one isn't, let the KW one be the surviving record.
Yeah, I agree.
That's important.
Yeah. Again, I still don't think it's critical, but I think it's useful. And anytime we can do anything useful, it's worth doing.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Okay, I will send you guys a copy of this recording so you can look at it at your leisure.
Okay,
Okay, we'll do.
thank you.
Okay,
Talk to you-
bye-bye.
Talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye-bye.
CV.